First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live, broadcasting from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. Now then, this evening, the title of our program is Sri Lanka, a fabulous past, a sad future. My guest tonight is the former chairman of the BOI and senior legal man, President's Counsel, Upul Jayasuriya. Very good evening to you, Mr. Jayasuriya.
Good evening, Faraz.
Thank you very much for coming. But why is it that some people say, Sri Lanka, fabulous past and a sad future?
I think that's mainly because of the opportunities that we have had. We have never been able to make use of such opportunities and then go forward. Whereas, if my memory goes back, in 1978, when President Jayawardena started the GCEC, the Greater Colombo Economic Commission, we were the second in the entire region. First was Singapore.
To have this...
that concept of the free trade zone, which is now the Board of Investment, the BOI. And the Chinese, during the time of Deng Xiaoping, they came, they sent a delegation to Sri Lanka and they studied our system. They started there. The Indians came here and they started, that's in 1982, 1983. And thereafter it was followed by Vietnam, Bangladesh and now Malaysia, everywhere. They have done much better than what we have done.
But why? The obvious question is why? Why have we been left behind?
I think there again, the political forces in Sri Lanka have been pulling back the forward march of this country from time to time in different directions. And the politicians, the decision makers have also fallen prey to those pressures, including people have been talking about make ape rata, inna rata kona, and make a single about the rata. That kind of stupid references have been brought in by these politicians who are hell-bent in grabbing power from time to time.
That's always because they made it in such a way that the race card, as described by one of the brothers Rajapaksa, the race card was always a sure vote catcher.
It was not only by Rajapaksa, no, this started during the time of SWRD Bandaranaike.
Of course.
So Rajapaksa only imitated that. So what happened? What did Bandaranaike do? I no point going into that kind of history because most of the people have not even heard about Bandaranaike now. But he was the starting point. And then came Rajapaksa's. Rajapaksa's last election, they went and told the people, that look, these are country where the Sinhala Buddhists and it should be preserved, as if the opposition was going to eat up the Sinhalese and the Buddhists, which was not the case. They talk about Nagaraja at the Kalani temple, and then they massacred the religion and the community, the Sinhalese community.
But the people believed them.
This is where the problem is. I don't put the blame only on the politicians. Politicians can be rogues, but the people believe them from time to time. If you are to look at a leader to be elected, you must look at his past. You must look at his past. What did these people do in the past? What have they done for the country? What did they preach? Now take for instance our private sector. In every country, Jayawardena tried to start a medical school in Sri Lanka. He was shot down by the opposition at that time. Then again, Mahinda Rajapaksa started that with the Saitan. Then again, when he changed, or rather he lost power and he went back to the opposition, he set up the other forces like the GMO at that time and the other inter-universities and all that. They walked on the road blocking the implementation of Saitan. Whatever. In other countries, now take USA, UK, Japan, Australia, not only those countries, even third world countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, Malaysia, most of our children are going there to study. Right? We are losing about for a year $5 billion. And who is spending all these monies? The parents, either who they are school teachers or principals or public officers, bank managers who value education. They sell the property of theirs and they send their children overseas because they can't get that education in this country. But whereas when that same education is to be given in Sri Lanka at maybe 20% or 15% of the costs that would have been incurred by them if they had to send the children overseas is deprived from them, and we lose our foreign currency. That's one of the biggest problems. But who are the parties that are willing to change our policies to open up our education system and then have these universities invited to come here to Sri Lanka to start these universities for the children, enabling them to have the education either to become a doctor or engineer or any other profession? It's not happening.
As a legal man, I thought I'd ask you this question because it appears to me that the rigidity of precedent seems to have been done away with by the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, and recently it appears to me certainly that the Supreme Court has moved away from this rigidity of precedent and gone into a different level. I call it uncharted territory. What do you call it?
I don't call it uncharted territory because this is a territory that we wanted to, it was needed that we embarked on this territory for some time. This is a territory that has been charted by many other jurisdictions, by many other courts. But fortunately, even at this stage, I'm happy that the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka has made this movement from notional damages moving on to punitive damages. Constitutional damages earlier, now delictual damages. So this is something that was needed by the Supreme Court. I can remember one case that I filed some time back. That was 28 people were killed in Anuradhapura when a bomb was blasted, killing General Janaka Perera and so many other people, Fernando Pulle, Dr. Fernando Pulle, his wives, 28 people, and there was about nearly 100 people were maimed. File FR application for a very flimsy reason. I'm very sad to say this. Flimsy reason as some defect in the affidavit, the entire application was rejected. So from there we have moved down to a situation where not only they are entertained, they are looked at with all seriousness. 7 judges have gone into this matter in comparison with the 3 judges who took up this Janaka Perera's matter, security lapse at that time. They have not paid a cent. Some of them are still suffering. So this is such a welcome move by the Supreme Court. I mean, this will extend now not only to the people who have these are people who have now been made to pay this compensation, the people in the police force and some of the politicians. But this will also, I'm sure, will move now to public officers who are not doing what they should be doing. The same principle here again. Police officers have not done what they should have done. So there are so many instances where public officers, take a Treasury Secretary for instance. There are certain cases that have been filed against the Treasury Secretary because they have not taken the decision or they implemented the decision that have been taken already. So then Supreme Court has to now order, because this is why our investment process is getting delayed. Now because of that, the investors are delayed. They are unable to implement their investments and then move forward. As a result of that, they have suffered so much of loss and damage. There are instances where agreements have not been honored. The courts have decided that the state should pay compensation as far back as 20 years. What was ordered to be paid as compensation, say in one case I know 175 million was ordered to be paid by the Commercial High Court. This was appealed upon by the Attorney General and it went to the Supreme Court. The appeal was dismissed. Now today the amount of damages that has to be paid, including 1.8 million rupees damages for a month plus legal interest on the 175 million rupees, it's compounded, is 2.6 billion.
2.6 billion with the B?
Yes,
2.6
billion. Now who is going to pay for it? The Treasury Secretaries, from time to time, they are all liable to pay this. They have to pay this. They have to pocket out. But these are decisions of the Supreme Court. Where else can you go? If these decisions are not implemented, do you expect people, foreigners to come here, then enter into public-private partnership. Now we say that we are trying to sell part of maybe some shares of Sri Lanka Talent. Much welcome move. Yes, of course, it must be done. Maybe so many other instances. I think it has been now named. It's in public domain. The companies that the government is trying to sell because they are incurring so much losses. Yes, most welcome. But who will take up this? Who will come and then make this investment? Hyatt, Hilton. Who will make this investment to come to agreement with the government? It's not worth the paper is written on. You can burn it and then apply it where you like. It's not worth the paper is written on. We are asking the foreigners to come and then investments come to agreements, PPPs, public-private partnership with the government of Sri Lanka. I think you must be joking. They sign. Yeah. They put the red carpet until you come and sign it. But the day you sign on the dotted line, from the very next day itself, they ask you bribes. Either they are asking for bribes or you always give the answer as no, no, no.
And it's only rarely that they get caught.
It's only rarely they get caught.
Like
but now the doors are open. They should be made to be responsible and they should be made to pay for it.
So it's actually the people of Sri Lanka must welcome this this move, this new move by the highest authority legally in this country, by the Supreme Court.
They are not only welcoming it, they are accepting it with veneration. Except for those who are now made to pay the money, the people of Sri Lanka, they have been watching this situation for a long time. And this is a situation that was welcomed and then expected for a very long time. And now we have it. We can move forward. We have to move forward. This is not only in this country, in our jurisdiction. We may be last to enter into this jurisdiction, but it has been happening many times in India, so many other countries. Those officers who ought to take the decision, who have failed to take the decision, I think there must be a law brought in Sri Lanka to make the failure to make such decisions and then a loss being incurred by either the government or by any other party, private party. That must be made an offence punishable with corruption, on corruption. They must be punished under the bribery and corruption law. That's the only way that they will learn it. Unless you take the stick into your hand and they make the public make them aware, saying that if you don't do what you have to do under the law as you are required to take that decision, then pay for it.
And do you think that now is also the most opportune moment to bring in legislation, sustainable and real, well thought out legislation, something on the lines of a Political Donations Act?
Of course, it must be brought in. It's there in other countries, but we are not having it yet. But there was some law that was brought in today. I don't know the effect of that and then how it is drafted. I have not had the opportunity of going through that.
Right.
But I think that must be brought in because political donations are accepted from various parties and then they are obliged to perform and dance to the tune of those particular private instances. The private companies that are making these donations. It's a welcome move. I don't know the effect of it, and then I don't know much of the provisions that are contained in that law. But I think that's something that's welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Upul Jayasuriya. You can send your questions in on by SMS or on WhatsApp to 0772 300 305. It's straight through to here. But in the meantime, it's now time to take a peek at this evening's headlines from that fabulous primetime news team up here on the third floor. We'll see you on the other side of the break, shall we?
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Sri Lanka's election expenditure bill passed by majority vote. Opposition's request not to apply the bill for the upcoming local government election rejected. CID investigation underway after 2 election commission officials received threats. JVP and Frontline Socialist Party to counter government efforts to crack down on protests and to delay elections. Indian External Affairs Minister in Sri Lanka on an official visit. US warship in Colombo for military exercise. poetess of Sinhala cinema, Dr. Sumitra Piris, passes away. It is time. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announces shock resignation.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Mr. Upul Jayasuriya, former chairman of the BOI and also President's Council. Mr. Jayasuriya, let's move on to elections. How legally unfair is it to try and sort of delay the elections that are due?
I don't think that's a question at this moment of time, because there was an attempt that was made by, said to be by the Cabinet of Ministers through the Secretary of Public Administration, which was conveyed to the Election Commission, or rather which was conveyed to all the returning officers and assistant returning officers. The returning officers are also the divisional secretaries, not to accept the deposits. Few hours later, I think we also had a press conference in connection with that. Few hours later, the same secretary withdrew that letter. Now, withdrawing the letter doesn't mean very much, because the decision is supposed to have been made by the Cabinet of Ministers. So, unless the Cabinet of Ministers reverse that decision, he can send another letter tomorrow.
Yeah.
He can, or the Cabinet of Ministers also can take another decision to thwart the election process in a different way.
Yeah.
So, the election, it has been now held by so many judgments. Even the exercise of the vote at a local government election is the exercise of your franchise. Because there was a doubt earlier whether the local government elections exercising the vote is exercise of the franchise. So now it is held to be the same.
Right.
So now the excuse that have been given by various quarters that are connected with the ruling party is that we have no money.
Right.
So take for instance that what was due was not the local elections, but say what was due was the general election. Say what was due was the presidential election as required under the constitution. Are you going to say that, sorry, we have no money, so therefore the same parliament should go on? I mean, come on, that is totally unacceptable. And what about the same local authorities that have been running for the last so many months and now years?
Yeah.
Are you going, I mean, we know how many times, in how many instances most of these people, either they have been taken into custody for accepting bribes and they are playing merry devil. They are playing merry devil. So, are they going to be allowed to continue? So, shouldn't the people be given the right choice to exercise their choice at the right time in electing a council of their choice? Surely, you can't thwart that election process. That's totally in violation of the democratic rights of the people.
And you firmly believe that as a result of all these matters, that these elections will be held more or less on time?
I cannot say that with certainty.
Yeah.
Because if the Cabinet of Ministers has taken that extreme step of directing the divisional secretaries not to accept which is something unprecedented. They might take another decision tomorrow, withdrawing the staff from the Election Commissioner's department or transfer them out, or they might take another step of withdrawing police security. So this kind of situation is unheard of. But I think an application will also be filed in the Supreme Court. Now that there is a likelihood, every likelihood that there is a attempt to scuttle the election process. So preventing such action being taken, we have to seek the help of the Supreme Court.
And do you think that when you look at it, what do you say about the young people who came and started protesting? Let's call it Aragalaya.
Yes.
Do you think that the Aragalaya made the necessary, it stimulated the change. And do you think that it has now failed, or is it now gaining ground?
Aragalya has not failed at all. I think it is the Aragalya that brought a new president. It is the Aragalya that made the past president to flee out of the country. It is the Aragalya that made the new president to confine the cabinet to at least 15. Now it has gone up by another, it's going to go up by another 1 or 2 or I don't know how many. So these young men who face in front of it.
And women. And women.
And women.
Indeed.
When I say young people, yes.
The young people, that's
Young
it. The
people.
people's.
It's a people's struggle.
Yeah.
But it was the young people who gave the leadership to that. And they would have been supported by many other political parties also. More than that, it is because of the leadership that they gave that at least there are no queues for fuel. They came out with a QR code and all that, and then, but there are so many other things to change. Now take for instance the Gotabaya Rajapaksa regime. First thing that they did, even I think within the first 1 month, they brought in a tax cut.
Yeah.
We lost the tax revenue by 25%. 25% of the government revenue was lost by this tax cut that was given. And that was calculated to be, it was accepted by the central bank, that it was said to be 681 billion. 681 billion.
Because no one's being held responsible for this.
Is yet to be made responsible because there is a court case pending in which the Honorable Supreme Court, a 5-judge bench, has given so many stay orders, and the Auditor General is to file his report on the quantifying the losses that we have suffered on 3 different items. Firstly, by pegging the dollar at 203, and secondly by the payment of 500 million ISB, and thirdly by the delay in going to the IMF. And so the Auditor General is given a further extended time till March. So it's yet to be decided. We are hopeful. So the construction industry has totally failed today.
Yeah.
There are more than 1 million people, direct and indirect employment, who were employed in the construction industry. They are without a job. I don't want to name the company. The one big company in the construction industry that has 10,000 employees now has only 100. 100. You can see the impact. There are there are masons, the carpenters. They are begging on the road. I met some of them. They are begging on the road. That is on one side. The other side, now they belatedly they have brought in the taxes. Taxing is not the only option that we have in increasing the government revenue. With the taxes, there is a 36% tax, plus there is a national, I think the GST and the NVT totally is about 20%. So from that is an indirect tax. Whatever the items that you buy from the market will go up in price by so much, but it is not that amount, it has gone up much higher than that. So finally what is left in your hand for your own expenses is 44%. 44%. Now I met a senior judge who told me when they were having a salary, they get ready with their budget according to the salary they get.
Yeah.
Now the new tax cut has been imposed. He is getting a cut on his salary close to 200,000 rupees. Now he has also obtained a loan. Now when he pays the installment on the loan, he has only taken away home salary of 27,000 rupees. Now is this right? 27,000 rupees. To maintain the dignity and also the independence of the judiciary, we must make the judges independent in the economy.
In the truest sense of the word.
In the truest sense of the word. I have been advocating that at least the senior judges of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal, even after retirement, at 65 years of age or 62 years of age, they must be paid the same emoluments until they die. We have only about 25-30 judges, but they should not be given any other appointments so that they will not be expecting such appointments from the government in power. so they can be truly independent. They should be given the vehicle, the allowances, the salary and everything. I mean, for a year, how many judges are retiring from the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal? Maybe 2 or 3. Why can't they be provided with that? We are saying from now on, for the future, we have to look at these things and then redress.
Now, thank you very much for your several questions. But this one I really must take, Upul. Why should we celebrate Independence Day when the real independence is when the country is free from the clutches of corrupt politicians?
Yes, I think the answer is included in the question itself.
Indeed.
I would very much agree with the statement that is incorporated in the question. In any event, this is not the time to spend at least even 200 million. As they say, it's only 200 million that's costing. I think 200 million must be spent only on erecting the tents and then the fuel. I don't think fuel, the jets that will be there, the air displays and all that is all calculated into it. So they may have put these expenditure under different headings. Right? So we can't put a false facade. The world knows, every country knows that we are beggars. We are beggars and we are the worst of all. Right? In this situation, if you are trying to say, no, we are much better than what we were and these are Independence Day, we celebrate with all the pomp and pageantry as we did before, this is not going to take us anywhere. The world, the donor agencies and the countries to whom we are going for restructuring and all that, they will make a note of these things. They say, you have money for all these things. Then if you have money for all these things, why don't you pay our debts? So this is not going to help us at all. That's my personal view.
And what should the people of Sri Lanka be looking at, even at the local elections, before they cast that all-important vote?
They should be looking at their past. Whether these are people who have robbed, whether these are people who have killed people, whether these are people who have committed criminal activities. There can't be any excuses. There can't be any excuses if you have committed criminal activities, setting fire to buses or government officers. There are no excuses. And what's the difference between a person who set fire to a government office or killed people, innocent people, priests and others? And there are people now in the parliament right now, there is a person who was accused of asking for blackmailing and then asking for a bribe of some 30-40 million rupees. After 52 days of trial, he was convicted and given a suspended sentence. Surely, I expected the Honorable Attorney General to appeal. It didn't happen. The Attorney General is very, very sensitive to these issues, but I don't know why it happened this way. That should have been appealed, and his place is the jail, not Parliament.
We've just got 2 minutes more. We heard that the New Zealand Prime Minister has resigned. We have leaders, both the Prime Minister and the President, who should be in home for elders. Why can't they get out?
As I think Lady Arden has said, the true leader is a person when he knows when to go home, when to retire. And that's, in the truest sense, that's a very valuable statement that she has made. I think very sad that in Sri Lanka, you're right, the people, when they come to Parliament, they want to stay there in Parliament for 50 years. Just imagine, aren't there other people? 50 years. But every time they come to power, they say that we are going to resurrect the country and they do good for the country. What have they done in the past? What have they done in the past? So that means every election when they are seeking to be elected again, they are admitting, sorry, we couldn't do it last time, but we want to do it again. Then they get elected, do nothing, then they seek election again. This is a process that goes on and on.
Thank you, Mr. Upul Jayasuriya. Before I leave, I suppose I should be saying that, don't you think that the people of Sri Lanka, the peoples of Sri Lanka, don't you think that they should be inspired to greater faith and hope, led by that wonderful Supreme Court of Sri Lanka?
Of course.
Thank you very much. That's the way it was on Newsline Live. Take care, have a great evening as much as you can, and as always, God bless you all.